Continuing with the Tur Hilchos Yom Tov, סימן Tav Kuf Tes, מכשירי אוכל נפש, אפשר לעשות יום טוב, דוחין Yom Tov. Things that are needed to prepare food that were impossible to do them before Yom Tov, you can do them on Yom Tov. Kegon, like what? Grifat, Tnor, cleaning out the oven, firing the oven, and so on. ושפוד שנשבר חודו Yom Tov, and a spit that the tip of it was broken on Yom Tov. בענין שאין ראוי לצלות, and it's not fit to roast with it now. מותר לתקנו, you can fix it. אבל אם נתעקם קצת, but if it bended a little, ועדיין ראוי לצלות, and you can still use it, אסור לתקנו. You can't fix it, אפילו אם יכול לתקנו ביד below kli, even if you can fix it just with your hand without using a vessel, because the fact of the matter is, as long as it's usable, you should use it as it is and not fix it. Sכין שנפגמה Yom Tov, a knife that became damaged on Yom Tov. Mותר לחדדה במשחזת של I can sharpen it with a sharpener of wood, or חברתה, or sharpening it along another knife. ומורין לעשותן, and you can tell people להלכה למעשה that they can do this. אבל במשחזת של אבן, אף על פי שמותר לחדדה בה, אין מורין לעשותן. But to use a sharpening stone, the whetstone, it's mutter, but we do not give the psak to do this. Aval lahavir shamnunis, but if it's there's oil on the knife that I want to get rid of, af b'shel even morin lasosken. You can even use a whetstone to remove excess oil that's on the knife. V'im nifgama me'erev Yom Tov aser. And if the knife became damaged erev Yom Tov and I just didn't bother to fix it erev Yom Tov, I can't fix it on Yom Tov. The Rambam writes, afilu al gabe eitz, even to fix it using a piece of wood, halacha ve'ein morin ken. This is the halacha, but we do not give a psak to people to do this. The al gabe mashchazes shel even ein mashchizin klal. And the Rambam says to use a whetstone to fix the knife, that is not permitted at all on Yom Tov under any circumstances. The Aviyadni Rosh Zal Kasev Kasor Rishona, and my father, the Rosh, wrote like the first opinion that you can sharpen it in the others ways, and it would be mutter, at least in theory, to sharpen it with a whetstone, but we don't say that publicly. Nifgama me'erev Yom Tov, if the knife became damaged erev Yom Tov, asur l'chadada mashchezes, you can't sharpen it on a whetstone. V'im lo nifgama me'erev Yom Tov, ela amda, but if you didn't sharpen it from erev Yom Tov, but it was amda, perush, hitchila katzas l'hiskalkel, it started to get a little bit damaged, ve'eno chot chayafa, and it doesn't cut well. If I can still cut with it somewhat, I can sharpen it on Yom Tov. Or dikla, I can use abnormal things to sharpen it, but not the sharpening stone. The Baal Ha'iter says you can even use the whetstone. And this seems reasonable. But if you can't cut with it at all, you can't sharpen it at all because this is like fixing something in the first instance on Yom Tov, which is not allowed. סימן Tav Kuf Yud. Molalim belilos umafrichin kitnios. I'm allowed to take off the husks of grain and take beans and peas out of their husks, b'Yom Tov, u'menafe me'at me'at, and I can separate them out a little bit, ve'ochel and eat it. Afilu b'ka'inun v'tamchui, even with the small kelim, afalo b'nafe b'kavra, but not with the generally used sifters and sieves are used for separating these things from their chaff. Habor or kitnios. If you're selecting kitnios, these are beans, peas, or shardap, or any other food. If it's harder to separate the food than the non-food parts of it, like there's a lot more food than there is the chaff. You can separate in the normal way, taking away the chaff. To throw away the no good stuff. If it's harder to separate out the no good parts, kegon shudak, like it's very fine. Then I take the food and I leave the chaff behind, the no good sign behind. But you can only do this if there's more food than non-usable parts. Mikamoto in its amount. So that you see that there's, as you look at it, you see there's much more food than the stuff you're getting rid of. And even so, even so, it's harder to separate the non-good stuff. Like it's very fine. Like I explained previously. But if the amount of stuff I have to get rid of is larger, aser, it's prohibited. Even to move it around, it's mukta, because the food is batal barov, is negated compared to the non-good stuff, so I can't do it. Nonetheless, there is an exception. Luzim ubodnim. These are types of nuts. שנשבר, they're broken, the shell is broken off them. ועדיין מורין בקליפיהם, but there's a mixture of the shells and the nuts. אף על פי שבחולס פסולס מרובה על האוכל, even though there's more there's more shell than there is nut. Mutarim, you're still allowed. Delo mikre psolas meruba, because in this instance we don't call it the non-usable part is greater. Kevan de orchaihu bahachi, because this is the normal thing that happens when you break these nuts open. Fave kmo shomer lepri, and it's not really psolas, it's called the shomer lepri. It's that which protects the food until I want to eat it. Velo dami latzamos v'klipin, it's not similar to bones and shells. Kevan shenifredu legamre min ha'ochel, because they are completely separated from the food. The next halach I don't completely understand. Ein misanenin achardel b'masnenesh lo. We do not use a filter to filter the like a cheesecloth or something like that to filter the mustard. And you can't sweeten it with a coal of wood, but you can't sweeten it with coal of metal. I have no idea what this is talking about. I don't know how they made their mustard at all. Ein tolin hamasnenes b'yom tov l'snanein bo shemarim. We do not hang up the cheesecloth on Yantif to sort out, to have it catch the dregs. Haisa tliya vomedes. If it was already hanging before Yom Tov, mutar l'takin b'shemarim l'sananan, then I am allowed to put the wine or whatever else I want to put in it to separate the dregs from the food. Umarin v'tolinoso litain ba rimonim, and I am allowed to play a little trick. I hang it up and put pomegranates in it. V'nosin ba shemarim, and then I'm allowed to put in the stuff with the dregs. Ubavad shitin ba rimonim tchila, as long as you first put in the pomegranates. So the pomegranates are there when you're using it, apparently. Ein osin kavinos b'yom tov. I'm not allowed to make cheese on Yom Tov. I don't know why you would think. I mean, the cheese won't be done on Yantiv. Vein gozin hayerek b'misparaim sheregilim l'chodchem behamin mechubar. I'm not allowed to cut up vegetables with the same shears that I use to harvest them, disconnect them from the ground. Umenakdinin esekundas ve'akbarios. And afal pi shemutar l'troach l'tarkein arke suda. I can fix these. I don't remember what they are. They are various types of food that's spread out. I'm allowed to fix them up so that they'll be usable. Because I'm allowed to work to prepare my food on Yom Tov. Efshar lishnos. But nonetheless, you should change it as much as possible from the way you do it on weekdays, if it's something of tircha. Hilkach, therefore, if you're bringing jugs of wine from one place to another, lo yaviam basal v'kupa, you don't bring them in a basket or a pack, l'teit l'tocha arba or chamisha kadim, to bring 4 or 5 at a time, biyachad, ela yaviam lefanav biyado, echad, you bring them in your hand one at a time, or shnaim, or 2 at a time. So it's clear that you're bringing them only for the needs of Yom Tov. And so to anything similar to this. Yeshna miderach chol, you should change it from the way you do it in the weekday. Afilu ein b'shinui kalus hamasa, even if it doesn't make it any easier for you to carry, or in fact, if it might make it a little bit more difficult for you to carry. But if you can't change it, kegon you have many guests, and you have to bring a lot quickly to them, then you can do it in the normal way. סימן tav kuf yidalef. Mותר לעשות מדור להסחמם כנגדה. You're allowed to make a bonfire to warm yourself up, or a big fire in your house. This is before we had eating and so on. V'lechamim maim l'irchotz raglav, and to heat up water to wash your feet, or hands, feet, and face. Avalo kol gufa, but not your entire body. L'irchotz kol gufa b'maim sheluchmu me'erev yantiv, if to wash your body with water that was heated up erev Yom Tov, kasav riv shemutar. The Rif says it's mutar to do. Very asur, and the Ri prohibited it. Lehiskima is the Adini Rosh, and to this, my father, my lord the Rosh, agreed that one shouldn't wash with water that was heated up even the Erev Yantiv, because people might not realize the difference between Yantiv and Erev Yantiv. Adam mutar litbol b'yom tov mitumasal. A person can go to the mikvah if they were tamei. But I can't take new things, meaning to do tevilas kelim, or tameim lataram, or in the time of the mikdash or even afterwards when people were still makbid on tumen tara, I have a kli that's tamei and I want to make it tahor so I can use it. No, I can't do that. Einosim, you can't do it. Einosim mugmar, you're not allowed to do incense. Perush mefazer mine besamim al hagachalim, that you spread types of, we call it incense, they call it spices, over your coals. Bein im mekavin lahariach, bein im miskavin ligmar habayis, whether you're doing it because you want to smell it, or whether you want to make the house smell nice, or kelim, or you want you're doing it. People used to do this in their closets to get their clothes to smell nice. Avalim osei kedei litain reach tov beperos, but if I'm smoking food, vegetables, to make it taste better, l'nitעקם la'achila, to make it more tasty when I eat it, mutar, that you're allowed to do. Lo shna im mefazern al gabe cheres or al gabe gechela shalit. It doesn't matter whether you spread when you're doing this, when you're smoking your food. It doesn't matter whether you're doing it on pottery or on wood, that's either pottery or metal, both of them heated enough that they would burn the incense. Siman Tav Kuf Yud Beis. There is a lot of modern discussion about this. Ein mivashlim l'tzarech einu Yehudi b'Yom Tov. You're not allowed to cook for the needs of a non-Jew on Yom Tov. Hilkach, therefore, afilu lahazmino aser. I'm not allowed to invite him to my house on Yom Tov. Shema yarbi b'shvila. Maybe I'll make more because of him. V'davka lazmino, and this is only to invite him. To kegon shirotze lechadda, because I want to honor him if he comes. Chashinin shema yarbi b'shvila. Maybe I'll cook more because of him. Aval la'avdo li'shivchaso b'beiso, but to your male and female slaves in your house, you're not going to honor him. He's going to eat whatever leftovers there. V'ken shaliach hashaluach lo, so to a messenger that's sent to him and he shows up. Mutar la'achilam, you're allowed to feed them with me. I'm allowed to have them sit down. V'lo chashin shem yarbi b'shvilam, and we're not concerned we're going to cook more because of them. Kasav Rambam, the Rambam writes, Aval im ba enu Yehudi me'elav ochalimo. A non-Jew that just shows up, I'm allowed to invite him to sit down and eat with me. Shekavar hechinuhu, because I already prepared the meal. Venu nira, and it doesn't appear that I'm doing anything for him. Ta'afal pi shekavar hechinuhu akate eka lemicha shema yarbi b'shvilo. And the Rambam says it doesn't appear that since I've already prepared my meal, I'm not going to prepare more for him. Imhu chashuv roy lekach. Even if he's an important person and fit for this. Ela tzarich yomer lo. Im yaspik lecha mashi chinu latzmenu bo ve'echol. But what you should tell him, the Rambam says, when you invite him to sit down with you, there's enough. Come and eat with us. Anashim eno Yehudim shemutal al bnei ha'ir lafos lehem aser lafos lehem b'Yom Tov. The government requires us to cook for the soldiers, bake for the soldiers. We're not allowed to bake for them on Yom Tov. Afilu im eno makpidim im yochal Yisrael mashu okel. Even if they're not so careful that they don't care if we take some of the bread that we bake for them. Ubahag hitir im eno makpidim. But the Baal Halachas Gedolah says if they don't care if we take some of the bread that we bake for them, then you're allowed to. V'ken kasav Rambam, and this is also the opinion of the Rambam. Anashim enu Yehudim shenasnu kemach shelahem liyisrael lafos lahem. These authorities that give us bread, flour to make bread for them and to bake bread. Im eina makpidim sheyisrael okel mimenu mutar lafos lahem. If they don't care whether the Jew takes some of it and eats it, then we're allowed to cook, bake for them. Even though this is the psak of the Rambam and the Bahag, the Tur says that's not the girsa that we have in the Gemara. And just like you're not allowed to cook for the needs of a non-Jew, so too you're not allowed to cook for your animals. It's only to cook, but to move, to feed the animals on Yom Tov is mutar. Even on Shabbos. They write, the Avi Ezri and the Rabbeinu Zachariah Halevi write that it's mutar for me to cook for the needs of the animals. Some animals, they used to cook the mash and things like that. I don't know whether we do this anymore. Sick animals, whatever, but it's not normal. But this does not appear correct to my father, the Rosh. And we will pick up from here in Hilchos Yom Tov next week. Everyone should have a wonderful day.